Hello. That took me a little minute to be able to connect today. So I was like, oh, it's not connecting. I have gone through my phone. I'm hotspotting to my phone today because we always seem to have issues with graininess and all that kind of thing. So we're testing different options. Today, I want to talk about carnivore because I've had a week or two of lots of questions around this, particularly at the clinic. So thank you to those people. You know who you are. And also clients as well. So we're going to just talk about the different things that were brought to my attention or asked of me this week. And it might be helpful to you. It might not. That's okay. So first of all, why would you go on the carnivore diet? If nothing else, it's like the best elimination diet you'll do. All right. So if you don't know what's causing you issues and problems with gut function or chronic disease or skin issues or whatever you've got going on, one of the best options is to go on a carnivore diet or even a lion diet, which is really, really full on simple, which is just like water or meat, water and salt. So that would be the starting point. Then after, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, whatever, you can then start to add things back in. So that would be why the minimum of why I would go on a carnivore diet is to eliminate other things and to see what happens. And I would stay on that carnivore diet to start with, and not bring anything back in to your diet until you start to see relief of those symptoms in the first place, right? So many people are going on the carnivore diet for a lot of different reasons now, and there's many different reasons why you should. And if nothing else, if you've done everything else and you haven't done this, what's the harm, right? Give it a shot. Okay. So, and it's also because mostly plants are the issues when it comes to plant toxins and things like that. So it's tricky to find out which plants are causing which problems. And I had somebody this week speak to me about testing of these things, and this comes up a lot, and I used to do the testing. It was one thing that I did myself even every 6 months. But what happens is, and there's a pattern that forms when you have the testing of what you're intolerant to, it changes every 6 months because whatever you're eating most of the time is what you become intolerant to 6 months down the track. So if you have a test and it tells you, and this happened to me in the beginning, you can't have almond milk. All right, so I swapped to macadamia milk. 6 months down the track, I couldn't have macadamia milk because I was having that every day. We're not designed to have the same thing every day. And with plants and with meats, but it's less of an issue with meats because there's not so much chemicals in meats that are designed to stop us from eating those meats, right? Plants produce toxins and chemicals that are designed to stop animals eating them, and it's a survival mechanism, right? So plants have more in them, and if you were to sit down, and if you're a plant eater, I was a plant eater for the first 50 years of my life, so I hear you, right? You would need to sit down and sort out a diet that you do not repeat the same thing within 4 days. Okay, so day one, let's talk about coffee. Day one, you'd want to have Arabica coffee with almond milk. Day two, you'd want to have coffee from, I don't know the different kinds of coffee, from somewhere or other else with macadamia milk. Day three, you might want to have oat milk with some other kind of coffee. And day four, you might want to have tea with some other kind of lactase-free milk. I don't know, whatever. But the concept is every food that you eat, you should not repeat for 4 days. We don't do that. Whether we're being frugal with our money, whether we're being good with, or just appealing to our taste buds, we repeat the same things over and over, okay? consistently. We will make a big batch of something and we will eat it every day for 3 days, or, it's just, or we'll have the same, lunch every day that we take to work because it's easy, it's convenient, it fits the budget, it tastes good, all the things, right? So a lot of these intolerances come from the plants, but more so because we're eating the same things over and over. We even have a favorite apple. Of the millions of varieties of apples there are out there, we eat the same apple. I know we used to, Pink Lady, that was what we liked, right? So we don't alter things, and that's where the problems come in. So using carnivore diet as an elimination diet, if you, at the very least, is awesome, okay? It helps so many people with chronic diseases, with inflammation, with all the issues that we have going on, because you're eliminating all the crap from your diet. We're not talking about plants here. We're talking about all the other things. As long as you're cooking that meat in tallow or lard or bacon grease or butter, not in seed oils, because that's problematic, particularly if you have thyroid issues, but it's problematic for everybody. So that's the starting point as to why you would try a carnivore diet. And honestly, I had been pretty much plant-based. Gosh, I used to run plant-based challenges in thyroid school. So that's how invested I was in plants. They didn't get me to where I needed to be, okay? I've had more success on reducing my thyroid medication since I've been carnivore than I ever did with plants, all right? So anyway, keep it simple is one of the points that I would like to make here. Don't get caught up in, oh, I'm bored, I can't eat steak again for another meal, or there's so many different kinds of meats, cuts, ways of cooking meat. And remember back to the fact that we will eat spaghetti bolognese 3 nights in a row without blinking. Okay, or we will have the same, fish and chip night every Friday night, or Taco Tuesday, or this sort of thing. All right, we are creatures of habit. So saying that you're bored with the carnivore diet, that's not an excuse. I'm here to say. All right. So another question. I'm looking at all my questions down here. Another question that I've had this week was on having monk fruit. In fact, this came from 3 separate people, guy and girls. So having monk fruit, once a week, or having it once a day in your sugar, in your coffee or whatever. So here's the thing with sugars like stevia and monk fruit. I would not recommend any other kind of sugars, but if you are having these and it makes you crave other sugars, no, you can't have it. Okay, Kelly Hogan, my Zero Carb Life, she is great for teaching about this, because she did the diet drinks and all this sort of thing for the first 5 years of her carnivore lifestyle, and then she was white knuckling it for, as she puts it, for so long on so many other things, and it wasn't until she ditched the artificial sweeteners and anything at all that was sweet that she stopped craving everything. Okay, so as long as you're keeping something a little bit sweet in, it's quite potentially that it's going to make you crave all the other sweet things. So if that's an issue for you, if it's not an issue for you and you don't seem to, if you test it, you go, and I said this to one of you if you're watching last week, test pure carnivore 5 days in a row, step on the scales every day. The scales will tell you inflammation, water retention, that kind of thing. So an adverse reaction. So if you're a strict carnivore for 5-6 days in a row, and then you have your coffee with the monk fruit in it, that will soon tell you the next day on the scales. Then you're going to need to, if it has gone up a little bit, and even if it's 100 grams, it's going to tell you, okay, there's something wrong with that coffee and monk fruit. Is it the coffee? Is it the monk fruit? Is it the milk you put in the coffee? See the problem here? There's so much you have to figure out. So you could, if you were just testing the monk fruit, put that teaspoon that you would put in your coffee in your mouth and then test the next day. Then have a coffee, plain black with nothing in it, test the scales the next day. All right. So, but the main problem with monk fruit and stevia is that it keeps the sweet taste in your mouth and in your field, and you will continue to want things, and then you'll just go, I may as well have this, I may as well have that, right? So it's much harder to fight the willpower if you've still got sweet stuff going on in your tongue. So that's the only problem that I see with stevia or monk fruit. Okay, coffee. Speaking of coffee, there's so much talk about, is coffee, is it okay on carnivore? Okay, so let's break it down. Coffee is a plant. That's really, really the simple way of looking at it. So if you're going to be strict carnivore, then no, you don't have coffee. It's a plant. A lot of people have the coffee. Health benefits to coffee as long as it's organic and prepared correctly and all the things, because coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed substances on the planet. So depending on what you're trying to achieve with your health, you may or may not let that into your diet. That's up to you. But I have a coffee every day. Okay. I have the one. Sometimes it's a decaf, sometimes it's not. I go between different milks. Hi there. How you going, Lena? So it is, I'm just excited because for the last few weeks I was having trouble getting comments, so it wouldn't show up. So yay, thank you for commenting so that I can see it's working. So that's the thing with coffee. So if you're going to have the coffee a day, great, have the coffee a day. If it's not affecting anything else that you do, fine. Another question that came up around coffee, yes, thank you. Another question that came up around coffee was, how do you do coffee when you're out as a carnivore? Now, there used to be a thing back in the day when cappuccinos were all new and fancy, and it was called a Vienna coffee. So I don't know if you're in my age group where you remember Vienna coffees. I'm not sure that many cafes have them on the menu anymore. But when I asked at my local coffee shop the other day, can you do a Vienna coffee? He knew what it was, and he was young. So it wasn't on the menu, but he knew what it was, which is basically whipped cream in your coffee. So that would be more carnivore, as long as the whipped cream they're using has no sugar in it and it's, a good whipped cream. But that would be a better option than probably almond milk that is very plant-based and is very high in omega-6s, is what I've been discovering lately. I didn't realize just how high in omega-6s almonds were, because one of the next questions was, do you cheat? And yes, I do. Generally, it's either I cheat with the keto diet, so making some kind of almond meal cracker or tortilla, that kind of thing, or chocolate still sneaks in. I'm going to be truly honest, chocolate will sneak in. I'm trying to deal with that. My husband and I both want to deal with that. But anyway, that's a work in progress. So after discovering, though, that when I cheat mostly on a keto type of a situation, which is probably the best way to cheat if you're going to really struggle. If you struggle on the carnivore and once a week you have a keto pizza or something like that, that's not the worst thing in the world. That's better than having a real one, right? However, from my thyroid perspective, after discovering that the almonds are extremely high in omega-6s, that's a problem for the thyroid pathway. So it hit me in the face and I went, right, I can't cheat with almonds. And that is one of the biggest things that people have problems with when they go carnivore, is they have what's called oxalate dumping, which generally comes from the vast amounts of almonds that we consume now, that seems to be in everything because it's a good substitute, but potentially it's not a good substitute. Okay, so that's how I cheat, is that. But a lot of people, and Kelly Hogan's, I reference her because I watched another one of her videos this morning, and she just can't cheat. She cannot cheat because she has all sorts of issues come up, and a lot of people are like that. And I've noticed that when I do cheat with avocado, coriander, sour cream, like that of a thing, which I love and I miss, I get massive amounts of peeling on my hands. It took me a really long time to figure out what it was. And so, and I want to test it again now that I've kind of figured out, is this what it is? Is it the avocado and coriander? Because again, if you're using it as an elimination diet, great. It's like feeding a baby. You know, when a baby's young and you're testing different foods on them, and you test one thing for a week or so, and then you go, okay, baby can eat this, let's add the next thing in. It's the same kind of thing after when you've been on an elimination diet. So I've been without all those things for a while now. My hands are perfectly lovely again. And so now I'm sort of revving up by the coriander. I say revving up because I really don't want to face the fact that my body has an issue with those, because I love them. So over Christmas Day was the last time I had that sort of thing. Yeah, it was problematic. So other people have herbs and spices. That was another question this week, along with the coffee and the stevia and monk fruit. Do you eat herbs and spices? Yes, I do. It's not always. Sometimes. Often for me, a meal might just be a rump steak cut into strips with some butter on the side. So herbs and spices, I made sure now that what herbs and spices I do have in are not pre-mixed ones. So one of our favorite seasonings used to be Tuscan seasoning. It's a Master Foods one here in Australia. And one of the second or third ingredients is sunflower oil, so seed oils. Shocking. And so that really blew my mind when I went looking for seed oils this day in the house of what it was in. So now I just have individual pure, 100% onion powder or something like that. Here's a tip I learnt the other day: onion powder and garlic powder, keep them in your fridge and they won't go hard. It's one of those strange little things. I don't have them often, as I said, but every now and again I do, and I don't stress too much about it. And as long as I don't have any reactions to it, then I'm good to go. And that would be the same with you. Try one thing at a time. Same with the herbs and spices. And if you suspect it's causing an issue, then you need to test it. You need to go without it for a long time and then test it again and see what happens. Everything we do when it comes to our diet and our health has got to be tested on ourselves. I talk about this all the time because, there's 600 million people out there with thyroid disease like me. But I can guarantee there's 600 million different ways of making us feel better. Okay, we're all different. We all think differently. We breathe in different air. We have different stresses. We have different foods. So all of those things combine to make a unique person, as we know. So therefore, the solution for you for your health is going to be completely unique to the next person. You can take the basic ideas. You can take, okay, the carnivore diet. Let's start there. Oh, I don't want to go on the carnivore diet for the rest of my life. And like, we're planning on move to Thailand. And like, do I want to be on carnivore for the rest of my life? Probably not. I want to be able to once a week go to Chinatown and have street food. Will I have rice every day? No, it's not my thing anyway. And grains and rices are toxic to the lymphatics, which I have lipedema. So I am gradually finding the things that I can do and the things that I can't do. And that's what you have to do too. Nobody's going to do it for you. No test. You can have the intolerance testing, but it's going to change every 6 months. So do you want to be beholden to doing an intolerance test every 6 months for the rest of your life? I don't think so. Not when it's just a matter of change your food around. Don't have the same plant food. And we're talking plant foods specifically. Don't have the same plant foods every single day for the rest of your life, because then you are going to develop intolerances to that. Okay, so herbs and spices. Yes, when I want to. They don't seem to cause me a problem. The dried ones, as I said, I'm still trying to figure out coriander and avocado. Which one of those was causing me a problem? I would be sad with either being a problem, to be honest, because I love both equally. Okay, another question I had this week was grass-fed. Do I have grass-fed? Yes, I do, where I can. I don't stress about it, because having a commercially raised piece of meat is still going to be far better for me than having a bowl of pasta. Right. So it's just like, do the best you can with what you've got. If you can't afford the grass fed, just get the commercial. Don't try not to get grain fed. If something is specifically said grain fed, you're still getting those same seed oils and things like that from the grains and the toxic effects of the grains from what that animal's eaten. But it is still going to be far better to have the meat as opposed to having the pasta or that kind of thing. All right. So don't get too hung up on that. Grass-fed butter, here's a tip. If the butter is from New Zealand cows, and I know here in Australia, the Woolies butter is from New Zealand cows. New Zealand cows are not fed on grains. They have so much grass. So you can bet that the butter in Woolies, the Woolies brand butter, which is the cheapest one, is from grass-fed cows because they're from New Zealand cows. Okay, so don't worry about buying the grass-fed Kerrygold, whatever it is. You can just simply look at the back of every packet in your supermarket. Is it from New Zealand cows? Is it from Irish cows? I don't know. Depending on where you live, it could be, right? So don't get hung up on the labeling and straight away, where are the cows from? Okay. So what else? How do I prep? Okay, so I always keep in the fridge boiled eggs, always. I always keep in the fridge some kind of meat that's been in the slow cooker. I always keep in the fridge, what else do I keep? Usually sort of like a silverite kind of thing where it's sliced finely for like just eating. I always keep up a little container of butter that's been cut into cubes that I can grab. And I was watching if you're struggling with sleep, apparently it's high cortisol. And Lena, this is Lucina, this is a good one for you. If you can't sleep, there's a doctor. Is it Dr. Bright? I'm not sure. High cortisol, have a piece of butter. She literally says, keep butter on your bedside table. So obviously you can't do that if you have children or animals. But having that piece of butter calms the cortisol and allows you to go back to sleep. So I don't often have a sleep issue, but I do keep the butter in the fridge. And sometimes I'll have a little piece of butter before we head to bed. Not always, just sometimes. So that is how I prep. I just always keep some kind of meat in the fridge ready to eat. And at the worst, I always keep dozens and dozens of eggs, more eggs than two people can possibly go through. We live in a cyclone area. So, and it is cyclone season. We've already had one. And once cyclones come through, if you're in a hurricane area or tornado area, whatever you're in, you will know that the shops absolutely empty out in a heartbeat. So I always keep more eggs than I can possibly need. I always have things like that, and things like the slow cooked meat already cooked and in the freezer in little containers so that I can just pull out a little bit at a time. All right. So, because remember, I've had weight loss surgery, so I can't eat more than this kind of amount of meat at a time. So when I freeze my meat, I freeze enough that I might have some and there might be some to add to scrambled eggs for my husband. All right. So I don't keep, I always freeze them in smaller amounts so that it's easy to pull out and just have a little bit in the fridge. But eggs, you can't go wrong. And I was watching a Lily Kane. So Lily Kane is another person who I highly recommend. She is very much a person who started out on the carnivore diet and has tweaked and tested her own body as she's gone along. And she gets tests once a year, and then she tweaks and adjusts and tests the next version of her diet. She is still animal-based. She very much prophesizes about 4 eggs and a pound of meat a day, which for us Aussies is like half a kilo. So she eats 4 eggs and half a kilo of meat a day. That's her minimum across the board. And then she adds things to that. She has slowly over time added fruit and raw yogurt. We can't buy raw yogurt here in Australia. I don't know about anywhere else. It's illegal. We must have pasteurized, but if you can get it, more power to you. She has that and fruit at night, berries kind of thing. And she's added the odd vegetable, like as in sweet potato. What else does she have every now and again? Sweet potato. I'm going to say broccoli, maybe, a few things that she will add in. But she tweaks her diet. She isn't, even though she's got 300,000 followers and she started out with a carnivore diet, she has stayed strong to no. This is about me. Dairy is bad for the thyroid. I do not have a lot of dairy. Dairy is one of the things that I like keep to the minimum. I will have the odd dairy here and there. Funnily enough, since my weight loss surgery, so I could never tolerate dairy, presumably because of my thyroid, but I could never tolerate it before my weight loss surgery. Afterwards, doesn't seem to affect me. Don't know why. Couldn't tell you, because don't forget, weight loss surgery is affecting the hormones. So, but I still don't have it often because and if we remember cow's dairy particularly, it's designed to grow baby cows really quickly. So if we think about that, anything you've got going on in the body that you don't want to grow, don't have dairy. And cheese is, that's right. It's just like, and so it's not something I have often. As I said, maybe every now and again I'll have the cream as a Vienna coffee in the shops, maybe. And after what I saw about almonds this morning and the ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s, I'm probably going to have to go to the whipping cream in the coffee. Don't know, because I'm not sure how I feel about doing that every day. Again, I test it for myself. I have to test it, see what my thyroid labs are the next time I test them. You don't know until you test it on yourself. Okay. And I could be bad with it simply because I have that stressor and that belief system that it's bad for me because of years of it being bad for me and affecting me badly. I would snore really badly if I had dairy. I would feel all mucousy and chopped up if I had dairy. So, but probably more so is the feeling that it's designed to grow a baby cow. It's designed to grow things. So if you've got things in your body you don't want to grow, whether that is weight, whether that is estrogen, whether that is a lump, bump, cyst, whatever, then no, I would not have dairy. That would be the one thing I'd say, nope, not for me. But as I said, right now I do have it every now and again. And I would say that would be, when I say every now and again, it wouldn't even be once a week. Wouldn't even be, unless I have a sprinkling of cheese on something, which is pretty rare, but it's always in the house. So I might do it without thinking because my husband's mother's French and cheese is a food group to him on its own, like its own food group. So, I tend not to have it at all because, I know what it can do. And it's got a casomorphine in it. It's addictive. Cheese is designed to be addictive for the baby cow, or not milk, dairy milk, right? And then cheese is a 10 times concentrated version of the milk. So we're getting a 10 times concentrated version of that casomorphine, which is just highly addictive, right? So it's why even vegans say the last thing they gave up was cheese. Cheese is such a slippery slope for people. Same with ice cream, sour cream, because they're all really concentrated forms of this casomorphine. A2 does not have this version in it, and A2 is generally goat's cheese and things like that. But funnily enough, there's a goat's cheese in Woolies that's, I don't know if you know it, it's a little white one. It's a little white and it's got dill in it, the herb dill. I love that because I love dill, but I feel horrible when I eat that, like straight away. And that's the upside of a carnivore diet. if you generally stick to meat at your meals or chicken or whatever, you know pretty quickly if you have something unusual that doesn't agree with your body. Like straight away, you know. So that's what I've found with that. And that's an A2 version of the milk, but I love it, but I will have it maybe once a year, probably longer than that, because each time I have it going, maybe this time it's going to be okay. It never is. So that's the upside of a carnivore diet, all right, is you very much know straight away if there's something that doesn't agree with your body and for whatever your particular health issues are, right? Another question I had, how much does one wrong meal affect your weight loss goals? Now, this gentleman, he was like, he said, I go for 5 or 6 days. And then he said, I just have a meal where, we've gone out or something like that. And he says, I can't help it. And he's like he said with me, he said it's sort of keto that he sticks to. So it's not a terrible meal, but he said, how much does that affect your weight loss? And so I said to him, well, do you step on the scales every day? Oh, no, I don't think he did. But that's how you know. If that's derailing his goal is weight loss. So others of us, it might be like, for me, it's general health. It's keeping the weight off. It's getting more bang for my buck nutrition wise, because if I can only have this much food and I have a salad, that's not going to fill me up, is it? That's not going to give me I can't possibly eat enough salad or grains or that sort of thing to get the nutrients that I need, whereas some meat I can. He's in a different story. If he's working on weight loss, and I said to him, because it was about 4 months ago that he first did the carnivore diet and lost about 6 or 7 kilos, whereas this time he said he's not really doing much. And I said, were you pure last time? He goes, yeah, this time he's having like a cheat meal once a week, and he's lost a little bit, and I said, well, there's your answer, right? It does affect your weight loss. It may not affect the next person's, but it does affect yours. Everything is always about you testing you. If you don't use the scales every day and then think, what did I eat yesterday? What did I drink yesterday? What did I think yesterday? What did I do? Was I stressed? Because stress will put on weight quicker than any food you can possibly imagine. Okay, so you are your own puzzle. If you don't take the time to sit down and go, right, what did I eat yesterday? And this could only take you 5 minutes by stepping on the scales and then quickly looking at the notes on your phone that you wrote down what you ate, or if there was something big that happened to you yesterday, something big at work, or, you had a fight with your partner or whatever. If you're not tracking that and then going, oh, look, that's what that is, then you're never going to know what your unique solution is for whatever problem it is you're trying to solve. And everybody's got a slightly different problem they're trying to solve. Everybody's got a slightly different mix of diseases and issues that is only unique to them. Even with thyroid disease, there is so many symptoms for thyroid disease. Everybody's not going to have all of them. Everybody's going to have their own unique little set of symptoms that come from that disease. It doesn't matter that there's 600 million people in the world with thyroid disease. Okay, so everybody's going to have their own little unique things. So you've got to consistently test for yourself, and you've got to come to it from a perspective of being open-minded and it not being a stress. Okay, so while I'm not a fan of, and sour cream, particularly sour cream of all the dairies, I seem to do okay with a bit of cheese. But sour cream particularly makes me feel horrible, like the goat's cheese did. I just don't feel well after eating it. Go figure. No idea why. I can have cream in the coffee and feel fine. Can't have sour cream. Can't have, what was the other thing I said? The goat's cheese. So you've got to know what nuances it is in those things. Is it that there's another ingredient in that sour cream, a gum or something that I can't tolerate? Maybe. I haven't looked at that. Note to self, maybe that's the issue. I'm not sure. But if you don't test these things for yourself, you're never going to know. It doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter if I say, oh, you should eat nothing but meat. I've reduced my thyroid medication 4 times since then, because that may not be what works for you. All right. You've got to go, right, this is the general information. This is what seems to be the go. Let me start with that and see what happens. Have a test. 6 months later, have another test. What did it change? What did it improve? Now, let's talk about testing, because that's the other thing that I've got questioned. And it's not really carnivore, but it came with carnivore people that were chatting to me about carnivore and what tests they think that they should have. And I'm very much of the opinion that get your general overall bloods tested once a year. I do. I see where my thyroid's at. When I was losing a lot of weight through the weight loss surgery journey, I got it tested every 3 months because, you know, naturally things were changing so rapidly that I had to keep a closer eye on things. But now I test it just once a year. I look at where everything's at and go, oh, I could probably use more sunshine because my vitamin D levels are still not that. Vitamin D is a hormone, by the way. So like thyroid hormone, vitamin D is required in every cell of the body. So those two things alone are going to tank all kinds of health symptoms quicker than you can blink. So I get that testing done once a year. Any other tests, I'm like, oh, do you need that test? If you know, like there's a patient at work that the chiro said, oh, I think she needs to be tested for celiac. And I'm like, and he asked me about it. I said, yeah, that's great. But the test for celiac requires you to eat gluten solidly for, I don't know how long it is, 5 days, 2 weeks. I'm not sure. It's like a long time. And if you know you're vomiting from gluten, are you going to want to have that test? And then they have to do a biopsy, right? It's not just a simple blood test to be diagnosed celiac. So that's why a lot of people probably don't go through with it, because A, they're not going to force themselves to eat something that they know is going to make them violently ill. And B, it's a biopsy. It's not just this simple little blood test, okay? So in that case, it's like, well, you just don't eat the gluten. You kind of don't need that test. If you're vomiting violently from something, you can just go ahead and assume, oh, gluten and me are not friends, okay? So those sorts of tests, intolerance tests to foods, we've already covered that. You don't need them. Okay, you can do your own testing. They're expensive, but sometimes from a mental perspective, while we're chasing diagnosis, we're not having to actually do anything about it. And that's often why people consistently chase a diagnosis that's hard to get, because I don't have to do anything about it because I haven't been diagnosed. All right, we don't do it on purpose. It's just that amygdala, our ancient brain, keeping us safe and from change. So it's not your fault, but that's how it happens, right? So the only testing that I'm late thinking, maybe everybody should have this test is the genetic mutations. So it's like 23andMe, I think Ancestry.com does one. There's a few different tests, but it tests all your genetic mutations. So if you've got the mother gene, for example, the MTHFR gene, you know for the rest of your life, you're going to need to supplement with methylated, already activated B vitamins because your body can't do that. So there are very distinct situations where you should probably know, oh, doesn't matter, because like you can do all the intolerance testings under the sun that you're deficient in things or that something's causing a problem. But if it's a genetic mutation that has caused the problem, you know, no amount of salad, no amount of meat is going to get you out of that problem. So knowing our gene mutations, I'm starting to think that's probably a good idea. I haven't had one done yet, but I've had enough people around me lately that I'm like, I think that's something we should all know about ourselves. And that's something that is about you till the day you die. And it's not something that changes generally. If you've got a gene mutation, you can either lifestyle can turn that on or lifestyle can turn that off. So it's not necessarily a situation where if you've got the BRCA gene that you're definitely going to get breast cancer, for example. Your lifestyle, you've got the mutation that you've got a higher likelihood of it. But if your lifestyle is such that it's not turned on, you will never get it. So this is why I kind of think that knowing our gene mutations would be helpful. So watch this space about that one. But that is it. So carnivore, be prepared. Have lots of meat in your fridge if you need it. And also on carnivore, since you're Lena, clearly thyroid person, tyrosine. Tyrosine is the T in the T3 and T4. If we're not getting enough tyrosine, we are going to struggle to make thyroid hormone and have a good thyroid pathway. Tyrosine is also what makes our dopamine receptors. So if you have an addictive personality, or you can't give up the sugar, or you can't give up the whatever, you're not getting enough meat, which means you're not getting enough tyrosine. Okay, so that's what's got to that's also why I think I've done so much better with my thyroid being carnivore than when I was plant-based, because of the sheer amount of tyrosine. It's, it is what it is. Having said that, to get the tyrosine to convert into tyrosine comes from protein. It's an amino acid. But then to break that down, we need all these other things like iron and good gut health and selenium and, and vanadium, right? It's like this tricky process. So, but you've got to start with where you're at. So being on the carnivore diet has quickly shown me which plant foods don't agree with me. It has improved my thyroid. It gives me more bang for my buck when it comes to the small amount of food that I can eat since weight loss surgery. And lipedema. I have lipedema. That's my little, unique set of things. And I don't know how many of you have that specific set of things. So if you do have that specific, can you let me know? Because I'm like, I wonder how many people have lipedema, thyroid disease, and have had weight loss surgery, or is thinking about it. I'd really love to know that actual statistic. But because of those things, lipedema, the diet that is recommended for lipedema is carnivore, keto at the very least. So that is your Hashimoto's and think about BSG. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. You probably have lipedema. Wow. Okay. Yeah, no, and we all think it's just our own little issue, right? And it's not. There's probably thousands of us out there with those issues, because I think I've come across studies where I think it's 80% of thyroid people have lipedema and 30% of lipedema people have thyroid disease, something like that, which makes sense because lipedema is driven by by hormone issues. So high estrogen, which generally comes with thyroid disease, lipedema, right? So thank you for sharing that with me, Lena. That's really important to know. Because sometimes I go, oh, should I just talk to you about lipedema? Should I just talk to you about carnivore? But this is kind of my journey as well. This channel was originally Thyroid School, and then I just turned it to my name because I just wanted to be able to talk about my unique set of things, and because I consider myself a test case dummy, a crash test dummy, because I'm always trying things, always, and it's not a stress to me to try things. So where we talk about dairy and that sort of thing, because I seem to have had no problem with it since weight loss surgery, it's not a stress for me to continuously try different things. I had a client around yesterday and I was showing her finally come across someone who has the same things as you. Lena, you're my person. I love it. And I'm so glad my chat's working this week. And the live stream, I'm assuming, is not fuzzy because it's saying it's excellent. Finally, I know. It's hard to find people who have the same things, but I'm willing to bet there's thousands of us willing to bet it. We just don't know we have thyroid disease or don't know that it's lipedema, right? It's I think that's all the issue is. I'm sure there is so many of us, but so many of us, like, I don't know about you, how long it took to get a thyroid diagnosis. Lipedema is even like less likely to get a diagnosis, which I don't worry about. So I would say there's so many of us, but we just don't know. We just don't know, right? Which is tricky. Anywho, Unless you have any questions, Lena, because that's what these Sunday mornings for me are meant to be about, is having a cuppa and answering your questions if you have them, now that it's working correctly. So if you have any questions, hit me up, because that's what I'm here for. If I can share anything that I've tested, and it might be something completely random, then I'm all for it, okay? Because if we can share with each other what we know, then it might be the missing piece for one person. And, you know, we just don't know, right? So unless you have questions, I'm going to toddle off. I don't know what everybody's doing today. I am doing another video, an actual video. I'm addicted to sugar. Do you have recommendations? Yes, because I also have an addiction to sugar. I can do all right with it for most days, but yep, here's the thing with the sugar addiction. You've got to cut everything. Anything that tastes sweet, and this is obviously why I was meant to watch this Kelly Hogan video this morning, because if you've got an addiction to sugar, the only way is to cut everything. Because while you're having the sweeteners or anything remotely sweet, it's keeping that flavor on your tongue. It's keeping that addiction alive. Now, Kelly was talking, I highly recommend, even fruit, the whole lot. Okay. This is, because do you remember Sarah Wilson? She did an I Quit Sugar program. She had Hashimoto's. Do you remember her? The first 2 weeks of her program, no fruit. I actually, looking back, okay, so Sarah Wilson, she's big. She used to be big on social media. She used to do, where are you from, Lena? Are you from Australia? Because she's big in the Australian world. She was one of the first co-hosts of MasterChef, I think the first couple of years here in Australia. And so she, from Belgium. Okay, that's why she actually travels the world now. She's got Hashimoto's and she's not really in that space anymore. She's just taking care of her. She's written many cookbooks called I Quit Sugar, but she did this program for a few years, and the first 2 weeks of the program, there was not even fruit involved. She then would bring back the keto later on, but if you want to kill sugar, and I've got to do this as well, my husband needs to do this, and I know you're watching, so, or you will watch, because he always checks my videos to tell me if things were okay or not okay with technical stuff. Then that's the only way to do it, is to kill all sugar until you feel like you can bring back a piece of fruit or bring back some berries and not feel like, oh my God, I need to have more. So Kelly Hogan was talking about a video, talking about a study that was done on rats, and they used cocaine with these rats, and sugar is 10 times more addictive than cocaine, right? So let's put that into perspective. So cocaine, these rats were made addicted to cocaine, and then they took the cocaine away and these rats went back to their normal rat life. I don't know what that means, but their normal rat life. Then they brought in these other rats that had never been subjected to cocaine, and they had their normal rat life for however long that was. And in the scheme of a rat life, this was decades after these rats were first given cocaine. And so then they gave each of these rats a drop of cocaine. The rats that hadn't been subjected to it were fine with it, went back to their daily life. The rats that had been addicted to it went crazy and became like addiction behaviors, all right, because it reminded them so swiftly. And I suppose it's like alcoholism. If you're an alcoholic, you cannot even have a little drop, is my understanding, because it will just put you straight back in that addiction mode. Sugar is 10 times worse than these things, yet it's legal, it's in everything. Yeah, it's crazy, right? So if you want to do you, which is what I always advocate for, you do you and figure you out, then kill all the sugar. Kill all the sugar. And that's where carnivore comes in, right? Carnivore is the ultimate sugarless diet. You're not having it. So, yeah, that would be the way. And honestly, after 3 or 4 days on carnivore, you're not looking for it. You're not hungry. Mind you, with thyroid disease, you're not hungry anyway most of the time. I hear you if you're that person. But that is the only way to kick a sugar addiction, I'm afraid to say. And it wasn't until I'd been on carnivore for, I don't know, I'm going to say I'd been on carnivore for maybe 3 months or maybe longer than that. Because I only went on carnivore because my husband wanted to lose weight before we went away. I'd been losing weight because of the weight loss surgery. I'd been doing it mostly plant-based, but it was in the early stages. So it was 6 months. I still wasn't hungry, that kind of thing. So I was still losing weight. I didn't eat processed foods. So I was still like gradually it was coming off. He needed to lose weight. And so I said to him, look, the last time you lost weight, you didn't, because he doesn't eat veggies, and you just cut out all the shits, was like 15 years ago. And it had a name called the carnivore diet. I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing now. And I went on it with him because it was easy. And I came across all these studies and all these people that had reversed their thyroid disease on the carnivore diet. So I was like, I'm in, because that's always been my goal, right? And so we went on this, and then we went on holidays, and, you know, I discovered we were away for 4 weeks in Bali, and within 2 weeks of just letting myself have anything, I missed the meat. I was like, oh no, I need it. I feel better on it. I feel good on it, right? So I went, everywhere we went, I would order satay sticks or a surf and turf, and then just give the rest to my husband. And so that was an interesting occurrence to happen. But when we came back and we went back on carnivore, I think one day we decided it was going to be treat day. And we'd been pretty sort of solid, and we just sort of went, right. And we're not really huge takeaway people. It's just, and we don't really go to restaurants. Unless we're on holidays, we don't go to restaurants either. It's just, I always cook. Anyway, so I went up to our fancy good grocer, and I was looking around, and my husband's like, I don't care what you get, just get something treaty. And I'm looking around, and suddenly I realized everything I was looking at was carb. Bread, oh, the bread, oh, that would be good. Oh, it was all these sugary carbs. And that's when I suddenly stopped and went, oh my God, I'm addicted to carbs. So it's like this moment where until you've gone without these things on, let's say, the carnivore diet, you don't know how addicted you are until you've removed them for like a set amount of time. So that's my advice to you, whether or not you have a go at it. And this is why I brought in the mental health side of things, because unless you can get your mental health on board, I'll try the no sugar, you've motivated. Let me know. Come back to this one and comment and let me know, Lena. And I'm pretty much, maybe I should run a sugar-free challenge because, yeah, thank you, because I've got to do it too, because it sneaks back in. It's insidious, right? You have one, and then the couple of days, or you have a bit more, and then you have a bit more, and you just can't help it. And it's not our fault. It is highly, highly addictive. Okay. All the processed food companies know this. They have scientists on their teams that specifically are designed to make their food have the perfect amount of salt, fat, and sugar to make our taste buds want more and purchase more. Okay, so this is a real thing. This is the only way we can control it is to completely cut it out, which means you've got to do the inner work. You've got to do the strength work. You've got to do the you're worth it work, because that's what happens. We start to go, oh, I'm not a good person, or I'm terrible at this. I've got no willpower. All the things. It affects our self-worth, right? We've all got a self-worth wound, all of us. So this is this stool that I talk about with my clients, the 3-legged stool, where if you don't do the physical things and the mental things and the emotional things, everyone's pretty good on the physical and the mental stool legs, but nobody wants to address the 3rd leg of the stool, being the emotions. We all want to be strong. We all want to I can do it, I can power through. We can't. right? We have emotions for a reason. And if those emotions go unaddressed, then they turn into more issues. So that's where I'll leave it with you. And Lena, thank you. Thank you for chatting with me. How long should you do that before having a cheat day every now and then? I would keep doing it, depending on what you're wanting to achieve. I would do it until you've, like, say you've got, and I always talk about looking at your body from top to bottom and taking inventory. You buy a business, you're going to take inventory. How you buy a cafe, how many chairs, how many dishes, right? So before you do something like this, if it's an elimination diet, you go, right, what are my issues? Thyroid disease, it's weight, it might be the peeling hand that I had, it might be I will, Lena, but it might be digestive complaints, it might be headaches, whatever it is, write it all down. You do your elimination diet until whatever your main issue is no longer there. Then you have your cheat treat, and it's a cheat because you're cheating yourself in the end, but we're human, so it is what it is. Okay, so you have your treat and then see how it affects you. Are you suddenly now, oh my God, the next day it's so freaking hard not to have another treat? Did you immediately get that digestive pain back, that whatever? That's how you test it. Okay, so you stay clean for as long as you've removed whatever it is that you're wanting to change. Maybe it's just to lose weight. Maybe it's, maybe it's a low libido. You're just not interested in sex whatsoever. Go on this elimination diet until you feel like it again, until you're not having a headache anymore, whatever it is, and then have your treat. But you keep a journal of how that affects you, because next time you do it, you'll have forgotten. I can guarantee it. It's why women have more than one baby. Okay, because we forget how the pain went. So we're designed to forget the pain because we've got a life of all kinds of pains and traumas and things ahead of us and behind us. That's never going to stop our lives continuously. So figure out what it is that you're wanting to, generally something that you can quantify easily is a good place to start, like a rash, or like if you think you've got lipedema, have a, like, how painful, or the cuffing around your ankles. While that doesn't go away yet, that I found, does it even out? Does it become more smooth when you're without all these other things? So find something that you can quantify, that you can literally put a number against. That would be the way of starting, to my way of thinking. And often, though, the treat thing becomes, if I have a treat, I'm going to want more treats. Doesn't matter what the physical issues are. Often that's the problem with having a treat, is it just grows because it's addictive. So it's tricky, but only you are going to find out what works best for you. All right. So now that I know, so Lena, you're still watching. Thank you. Tell me, has the picture been better than usual? Because I just hotspotted to my phone. And that would be something to know, because we've tried to set up an Ethernet cable, because my husband keeps saying, oh, they're too fuzzy, the live streams, because in Australia, here in northwest WA, we only get 20 up and 20 down. So looking forward to moving to Thailand, where it's like 500 up and 500 down. That will be awesome. So I'm testing all different ways to make these live streams clear and not problematic. So most of the time it was good, but sometimes it was still a bit fuzzy. Okay, yeah. Well, even our 5G is not ideal, right? So even the 5G on the phone, but obviously better than usual. So, and my husband will be the first one to tell me that when he gets home today. He's working today. So that's a better thing. So yay, we're all winning. All right, I am going to go, and thank you for hanging with me. Thank you, Lena, for having a conversation and a cuppa with me. And tell me what time it is for you. Anybody else watching, if you can tell me what time it is for you, because I'm still trying to figure out what time is the best time for a worldwide kind of cuppa. So we'll see how we get on. Everything's testing. You have a wonderful day too. And I will talk to you soon. 1 a.m. Oh my God, go to bed. Go to bed. So that's not an ideal time for you. Right. I think I might have to do the look at all the world clock and see what I can come up with. All righty. Much love to you, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.